So, welcome everyone to Psalms for Life, in which we explore a different chapter of Psalms each week. And we want to thank Esther Elagorovich for sponsoring this series. It's quite an undertaking. And please, Hashem, it should be a merit and a bracha for her family. And today's class is dedicated to Esther Ella's parents, with brachos for good health and long life and happiness, Chaim ben Nechama and Batya bat Manya. Okay, I'd also like to add, we always dedicate also to the soldiers of the IDF, to the hostages, to Nir ben Nurit and Yehuda ben Livnat. And let's begin with what Psalm 54 is a segula for. It is a segula for help in difficult times and for protection against our enemies. And as we go through this psalm, we will begin to understand why that is the case. Okay. So I am going to begin with before I even start, let me begin with a little more of an introduction. So we have learned about all the treachery that David has faced from Shaul, from David's own sons, from Doeg, Naval, and others. Okay, just his life was one of constantly being bad-mouthed, pursued, threatened with loss of life, attempted murder. How did he survive this? And we have another chapter today about David's enemies, the Ziphim, or in English, the Ziphites. And the Ziphim are actually related to David by tribe, but they nonetheless hope to score points with King Saul by betraying him. And we'll begin. Lamnatsea bin Ginos, maskil David. Now, we've discussed in the past what a maskil is very briefly. It's going to offer us some advice. It's advice that can be very logical and apparent, advice of the intellect. It doesn't mean that we remove our hearts from accepting that advice. We need that too, but that's the general approach. Now, the Alshich says that David was very sensitive, as we all witness from the beautiful, tremendously sensitive language in Sefer Tehillim. And his sensitivity could lead him to depression. And, we see this with people who feel things deeply, feel joy very deeply, feel hope and yearning very deeply, can also feel depression deeply as well. It can come upon them. And a depression interferes with the ability to prophesy, to receive prophecy, and to give over prophecy. We know David was one of the prophets, and his Tehillim is prophecy. It varies as to the intensity of that prophecy, but it is prophecy. And the depression could block him being able to have this height of spiritual experience. This is a lesson for all of us. We just came off of what I hope was wonderful 5 days of Yemei Purim, the days of Purim for everyone, where no matter what we are going through as individuals and as a nation, that we were able to tap into the power of simcha, because the power of simcha, of joy, brings us to a higher level, and it's the cure for everything. Okay, it's the cure. If we could just maintain that simcha. And David, it did maintain simcha most of the time, but he did potentially have times where he was feeling very down and out. And the Alshich says that the neginos, or the neginot, are instruments with special unique tones, and they were able to restore David, to lift his depression, to give him Yishuv Hadas, to give him a peace of mind, settled mind, so he could be happy, so he could once again receive prophecy. Just checking because I want to make sure that the sponsor hasn't messaged me. I'm getting a lot of messages. I can just hear the little pings, but it's not her. Okay. So we will continue. Bivo hazifim vayomaru le Shaul. When the Ziphim came, or the Ziphites came and said to Shaul, is not David hiding among us? So where do we learn about the Ziphites? We learn about them in Shmuel 1, Samuel 1. And the story of the Ziphites is told twice. I'm not sure why it's told twice. I've asked. One opinion I have, which is also a popular opinion, which Rabbi Kramer thinks is the prevalent opinion, is that because the Ziphites actually betrayed David twice. Other opinions are that, no, it's just a retelling of the same story with different details. There's debate about it. I haven't heard anything definitive, but I'm still looking into it. So what happened with the Ziphites? So David was in the land of Keilah, and he was hiding. And it says that that the Ziphim, or the Ziphites, came to Shaul and told him where David was hiding. Okay. And they were very specific, in the land of Ziph, okay, their land and their territory in the valley near Keilah. And they're very specific about where these places were. And when Shaul heard this, he came down with a small army to finally rout out David, to capture him. And he was very, very close to capturing David. David had fled to the side of a mountain, to the desert, and he was really, they were surrounding him. And all of a sudden, a messenger came, like a malach from Hashem, but in the body of a person, came and told Shaul, the police team are attacking us. Okay. Now, we had, as a people, a lot of wars with the police team. They were battling us for territory, and the police team were the people, they say they were Greek seafaring people who occupied Gaza for a while and finally were destroyed. And the police team later on became pronounced Palestine by the Romans. And when the Romans wanted to humiliate the Jews, they called the region of Judea, they said, no, we're going to call this Palestine, because they were a defeated enemy of the Jews and of all the people in the region, actually. And they felt that this would be a time to change the name of Judea, Yehuda, to Palestine. So anyway, that's just the story of how the name Palestine happened. But the police team were attacking. Shaul had to leave, and David once more was saved by Hashem. And I encourage you, if you can, to take some time to read Samuel 1, Shmuel 1, chapters 23, and again, the story of the Ziphim is in 26 with additional details. Now, we know that, for example, previous Psalms, David was, betrayed by Doeg, who was a great man and a great Torah scholar, yet he let his jealousy and his ambition get a hold of him. Here, the Ziphim wanted to less, I think, betray David than to ingratiate themselves with Shaul. It's like, oh, we'll go to Shaul and we'll tell him what's going on. Okay. And now the Ziphim actually lied, because they said, who is not David hiding among us? And the answer was no, he wasn't hiding among them, although he had been in their territory. And Shaul was so willing to believe anything about David that a negative report that actually had lies embedded in it, he was also willing to believe. And the Talmud actually says that they are called Ziphim because they mizayef their reports. Anytime they gave a report, they falsified it. Okay. And the Maharsha says that they told Shaul that he would be able to capture David easily, but they knew this wasn't true. They knew it was very difficult territory, and they knew that there were many escape routes, and it was desert and mountain and just a very, very difficult territory, and with a lot of hiding places. And it's true, Shaul came close, but of course he failed ultimately. All right, we'll continue. Okay. Okay, so now we hear that, so that's the story of the Ziphim, and now we move to David's plea. Elohim b'shimcha hoshieni, uvigvurasecha sidineni. O Hashem, with your name save me, and with your strength, with your might, vindicate me. Okay. So the Midrash says that David said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribbon Sha'olam, if a mayor persecutes a man, he goes to the governor. If the governor persecutes a man, he can go to the emperor. But where can he go to, and what can he do if the emperor persecutes him? The only one I can complain to is you. Okay, so the Midrash continues that the halacha in the Torah, in Parshas Ki Seitzei, is you shall not deliver a slave to his master if he seeks refuge with you from his master. So if a slave escapes his master, he says, I don't want to have this master anymore because he's abusive, he's not following the laws or whatever, or if it's a non-Jewish master especially who would very much abuse slaves, and he runs to you for help, you have to show concern for the slave and harbor him, take care of him. So Hashem, says David, according to the Midrash, another angle on this, if you show such tender concern for a slave who yesterday worshipped idols, okay, meaning the slave wasn't worshiping you, then surely you will care for and protect me from Shaul, as I am a prince from the royal family of Yehuda. So what we can say is going on here with this additional subtext, according to the Midrash, she's giving us like insights into David's frame of mind, is that David was logically arguing using his Torah knowledge, his knowledge of halacha, plus his I guess we could call it ethical knowledge, certainly the first part about the mayor and the governor and so on. And he was persuading Hashem to help him. And so it's really very powerful and unique idea that we can persuade Hashem in this way. This may be what Rebbe Nachman calls conquering Hashem. We go to make Hitbodedut. And we should argue, so to speak, with Hashem to develop arguments, logical arguments from Torah. Okay, and here, the second one, based in halacha, okay, we should argue with Hashem. Hashem, please bring me close to you. Here are the reasons, okay? Okay, I'm just a person who has to stand before the emperor, and the emperor is Shaul in this case. the emperor has no regard for me, so please help me. Please help me, Hashem. I'm a slave to you, okay? And you show concern to runaway slaves, or I'm not a slave to you, but you even show concern to slaves, and so on. Please bring me close to you, or please save me. Because really a Yeshua, when Hashem saves someone, it also brings the person closer to Hashem. So this is David's language, and this is David's his subtext here, and it's a lesson for all of us. And I would say also it's a broader lesson today. I'm not sure I would have noticed it before October 7th, but the lesson of I went to the governor, and I went to the mayor and the governor and the emperor and so on, and this is the position that the Jewish people find themselves in. We can see what's happening today. We can see what's happening just in the past few days, politically speaking. Much of the world is isolating Israel, including former big allies like the US, and putting a tremendous pressure on Israel. And we see that as a people, that this is what we're told will happen, is that we need to get to this point where the good ones are showing up and the bad ones are also revealing themselves. And we should cry out to Hashem to save us, because we really have nowhere to turn. You can't go to the US, not this administration. You can't go to, certainly can't go to Great Britain. You can't go to Australia. You can't go to the UN. You can't go anywhere, not for justice. The only place for justice and for salvation is Hashem, only address. And our sages tell us that before Mashiach comes, there will be nobody to turn to except Hashem, because people who are used to turning to various institutions and so on are going to have to come to the recognition, no, I have to go to Hashem. Rebbe Nachman always says anyway, he says, why go through all that? Just go to Hashem first. People, he says, they go to a doctor, they go to this specialist and that, and then finally they go to Hashem. Okay, let's do it the other way around. Let's just all turn to Hashem. And if some means within the laws of Teva occur, of course we should employ those means and use those means to cause good, to achieve our goals. But we turn to Hashem first. Okay. Let's continue. Okay. Elohim, excuse me. We're on Daled, we're on 4. Elohim Shema Tefilasi, Ha'azina Li'imrei Fi. Okay. Hashem, hear my prayer, incline your ear to the utterances of my mouth. So this is how we approach prayer. We ask Hashem to put the words in our mouth, and we ask him to hear us. That's what this verse is saying. Please turn your ear to me. Okay. Now, does Hashem hear you if you don't say this? Hashem hears everything, but there's different types of hearing. There's different types of listening. So the Zohar says that Hashem doesn't hear the prayers of those who speak Lashon Hara or who lie, as in the case of the Ziphim or the Ziphites. People who gossip, whether it's true or not, or who lie, either one. People who stir up trouble. Okay. And David is asking Hashem to hear his tefillos, his prayers, not those of the Ziphites. Because why? David does not speak Lashon Hara. David does not lie. So we can begin our own prayers, hopefully secure in the knowledge that the words that previously came out of our mouths were truthful and kind and not controversial. We didn't stir up conflict between people, between our brothers and sisters. And we approached every Jew with the spirit of Havas Yisrael, the love of the Jewish people. And then when we turn to Hashem, Hashem hears our prayers, says the Zohar. It hears our prayers, meaning that he's responding to them. Okay, so David had a confidence here that he was going to be responded to. Okay, we'll continue. We're on Hey 5. Ki zarim kamu alai v'aritzim bikshu nafshi lo samu Elohim lenegdam selah. Because strangers rose upon me and powerful men sought my soul. They didn't place Hashem before them, Selah. We've discussed Selah before. It may mean forever or always. It might also be an instruction within the song of the psalm to repeat a verse. Okay, so first we're going to pay attention to anyway, because the Ziphites are the strangers who sought David's life. And the powerful men who sought his soul, are they the same as the Ziphites? And the simple meaning, yes. However, I found a source that says the powerful men may actually be referring to Doeg and Achitophel, who attacked David spiritually as well as physically. And the subtext here is they questioned me because I had sinned, okay, because of David's sin with Bathsheba, which we've gone into in great detail. And even though David has done massive amounts of tshuva for that and has been forgiven, other people are still pursuing him because of this. And I want to touch upon an important law that if somebody has done something against the Torah or something wrong or major sin, if they do tshuva, okay, we are not allowed to ever refer to their past. That doesn't just include a Baal Tshuva or a Ger Tzedek. It includes anyone. And this is so important, to not shame someone for something they did in their past. Why? Because we are Jews and we do tshuva. And if it's a Talmud Chacham, we have to assume, according to halacha, that if we saw them sin, we have to assume that they already did tshuva immediately afterwards. Okay. And, you know, people say, the general kind of thing that people say is, oh, people can never change. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Not a Jew. We can change. We can do tshuva. And we have to believe, says Rebbe Nachman. Okay, I know I mention this a lot, but it's so important. Believe that if you can destroy, you can repair. Okay. Now, the repair process, depending, could take a long time. Okay, it could take a very long time. But you have to believe in yourself that you can do it, and you have to work on it, because this is the essence of coming closer to Hashem, which is what we all yearn for. We all yearn for it, whether we're conscious of it some of the time or not. We want that closeness, because once you've had that spiritual connection and that feeling and that light, you want to get back to it. So believe it, believe in yourself. Simple message from the Rebbe. It's such an important message. You know, it happens a lot. It's real hashgacha practice. Today's little mini podcast is about Torah 222 in Likutei Moran. It's very sweet Torah about how you should follow yourself. You should reflect on the times in the past where you were at a spiritual height, and now you've fallen, because we all fall. We all go up and down, and you should think about it, call it, and focus on it, daven about it, talk to Hashem about it, and you'll get that light back. Hashem will give it to you, says the Rebbe. Okay, so anyway, these people were very evil, Doeg and Achitophel, to pursue David, because He had sinned once. He did tshuva. He's forgiven. Okay. Also, they didn't place Hashem before them, Salah. They did what they wanted, not what Hashem wanted of them. It's very easy to fool yourself, okay? The Midrash says they ignore the prohibition of cursed is he who strikes his friend in secret, which is referring to Motzi Shemra. This is what the Ziphim did and others did as well, is they went behind someone's back and they not only spoke a negative truth, okay, which we're not allowed to do, that's Lashon Hara, but they tried to destroy David's reputation with a lie, okay? So they are cursed. Okay, let's continue. We are up to Vav. We have time, yes. Hine Elohim, Ozer li, Adonai b'someche nafshi. So Hine, here, behold, Hashem is my helper. Hashem is help to those who support my soul. Okay, so he's already saying Hashem's helping me. He just voiced a prayer. Okay, he just explained who he was up against. And he's now confident that Hashem heard him. So you see how these verses come together? Hashem, I'm not the one who's using my mouth for bad. I'm only using it for good, to speak words of holiness, speak words of kindness, and to speak to you. And therefore Hashem's helped me. It's so swift. And you know, the Rebbe says, and everybody says, but the Rebbe really emphasizes the importance of when we read any sefer, especially Tehillim, we should find ourselves in the words of Tehillim. And we can see that we may not be up against Doeg or Achitophel or the Ziphites or whatever. Okay, we may be as a nation right now, but as individuals, we may not have those kind of enemies, and I hope none of us do, please Hashem. But we have those enemies internally. We have that struggle with the internal Ziph. We have that struggle with the internal Doeg or the internal Achitophel and so on, or even the internal Shaul. We have these struggles inside with different aspects of the Yetzer Hara. One wants to trap us by not accepting that tshuva can happen, okay? And by saying you deserve to be punished still, you deserve to suffer. Chas v'shalom, okay? We have the struggle with maybe kidding ourselves, not being truthful. We all have moments of that. That would be the zif. Yeah. So we can see within these verses that Psalms is on every level, very deeply personal, very deeply historical. It is the story of David's life, and it is prophecy, and very much speaking about us as a nation. And we've noticed this more and more and more. Everyone has, not just me. I'm hearing this from people all the time. They're reading Sefer Tehillim in a new way since October 7th. It's new to them. And unfortunately, times of suffering bring us to new levels of connection with this particular sefer, with the Book of Psalms. I knew someone, no longer here. I've lost a lot of these wonderful survivors, okay, of the Holocaust. And one of them, who had spent a lot of time in Auschwitz, told me that Auschwitz wasn't so bad. I said, what? And she said to me, her name is Mrs. Newhouse, and she said to me, you know what? She said, I had a small Sefer Tehillim with me. She said, I had it memorized anyway, so I could loan it out. She said, whenever it was hard, I said to Tehillim. Can you imagine? She was a girl at the time, a teenager. I can't even imagine. So, that's where we turn. We turn. Rebbe Nachman said, if we knew the power of Psalms, we would be saying them all day long, which is why it's important to learn about Psalms. It's important because it gives you a lot of insight, more connection. Okay, let's continue. Oh, also, I want to say about this first. David is recognizing here that Hashem is helping those who help him, who help David. Okay. So how do we help David today? I think part of the way we do that is following his teachings, his Torah. And another way we do it is saying Tehillim. We are, as Rebbe Nachman says, when you say the words of somebody, when you have a student, and we are all David's students, really we are. When you have that, it's like you have children, you're leaving children in the world. So in a way, we're even like David's children. I think it's very beautiful. Okay, let's continue. We're on 7, verse 7. I'm losing my voice, excuse me. I already made my bracha. Okay. Yashiv hara lishorai ba'amitecha hatz misem. Hatz misem. Okay. May he repay the evil to my enemies, to those who lie in wait for me. Because of your truth, cut them down. So you have to go to Rav Hirsch at least once in a class. So Rav Hirsch says the word repay, okay, is pronounced yashiv. But Rav Hirsch says the word is spelled yashuv. Okay, the Kri is yashiv. How it's read is yashiv. And yashuv is to return, and yashiv is to repay. So here, David is praying that may all the evil they planned for me boomerang back to them, return to them, okay, through divine retribution. Now, in general, we don't pray for anybody to be hurt or anything. But if someone is doing evil to us, and we know what's going on right now, we not only can, but we should pray, just like David does here. Very important verse. You know, if you say one verse of Psalms, it has a completeness to it, which is why you can't interrupt tefillah, prayer. Not allowed to stop in the middle of prayer and have a conversation. But with Psalms, you can finish one verse, okay? One verse, not even a whole chapter, and you can pause. So you can even say one verse of Psalms. This is very apt right now. May our enemies, whatever they're trying to do to us or whatever they've done to us, may happen to them. Please Hashem, okay? Let's continue. Okay. We're on Ches 8. Bindava ezbacha lach, odeh shimcha, Adonai ki tov. With an offering from my free will, I will sacrifice to you. I will thank your name, Hashem, ki tov, because it's good. So David brings an offering of his free will. Not a particular kind of offering, such as a korban toda, Thanksgiving offering, but just a free will offering, just an offering from himself, okay? Because even though it's right for David, technically, to bring a specific offering, specifically korban toda, thank you, korban toda, thank you Hashem for saving me, okay? David realizes that because Hashem, in order to save David, has to destroy other people, this causes Hashem suffering. And David, uniquely sensitive, precious, dear, beautiful heart, doesn't want to cause Hashem suffering, because it causes Hashem suffering when he has to destroy any of creation. Okay? So Hashem's children. I mean, it's how we all are, really. Okay, let's continue. With the final verse. Ki mikol tsara hitzilani uvoivai ra'asa einai. He saved me from every distress, and upon my enemies has my eye looked. When a person deserved a Yeshua, says our sages, deserves salvation. He gets to see the defeat of his enemies, like seeing the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, destroyed at the seashore. The Jews deserved a Yeshua. It wasn't just given to them. They deserved it. Okay, they earned it. All right. They earned it by fleeing Egypt and following Moshe and doing what he said. And going into the water. But Lot was saved because of Abraham's righteousness. Lot didn't deserve the Yeshua that he was given. So he wasn't allowed to turn back and look at the destruction of Sodom. So because David sees the downfall of his enemies, he's happy here. He's saved, Hashem saved him from every distress. And upon my enemies, my eye has looked. I've seen it. I've seen them destroyed. So why is he happy? Because his enemies are destroyed? Yeah, because he's safe now. But he's happy because he saw his enemies, so therefore he's righteous. Now, what struck me about this verse is that doesn't David know he's a tzaddik and he's righteous? Like he wanted some validation that he's a tzaddik. It's very beautiful. Like even David, who knows he's a tzaddik, wants that validation from Hashem. And please Hashem, may all the Jewish people, we are all tzaddikim according to Torah, okay? Hashem says all his people are tzaddikim, they're all righteous. Please Hashem, may we see, may we witness the destruction of our enemies, and may we welcome the Mashiach very, very speedily in our time. And that's Psalm 54. Okay, I'm going to ask if there are any questions, and then I'm going to turn off the recording. Any questions? Nope.
Hi, yes, it's Leora
Oh,
from
Leora.
Paris.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and you?
Baruch Hashem. What
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. I actually want to just clarify on two comments. I was actually very happy on the first one where you said that in terms of saying Tehillim, we can pause at the end of the sentence. Because often I find that my husband would interrupt me or ask me a question while I'm reading, obviously not thinking that I'm reading, and I often stop only at the end of the chapter. But I'm really, really grateful that you actually clarified I can stop at that sentence.
Yes, absolutely. It is
Hashem.
absolutely kosher, and it's a very big saving grace for us because
Hashem.
we want to say as many Tehillim as we can,
Mm,
as much as we can, and therefore we are bound to be interrupted.
right.
It's a waiting room or whatever. You're going to get
Correct.
interrupted.
Correct, yes.
So there you go.
Yeah, Hashem, thank you very much for that. And then the other thing that I wanted to just quickly talk about is the Ziphites, right? And you said we should read more on Samuel 1, those books, to read about them. I also see that at the bottom of my Tehillim book, it actually referenced Joshua 15:55 as well, where it actually talks about the tribes, yes, the tribes of Judah in terms of their territory, which was very interesting because they were actually on the southern border, and they were actually the mountainous region tribes, which is also part of David's tribes.
Yes.
So it's very interesting to actually know that.
So tell me, so I want to actually write down, it's in Yehoshua, what's the number? Because I want to read it.
Yes, please, is Joshua 15:55.
Okay, great.
It actually talks about all the tribes that live in these different regions, and Ziph actually lived there as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I look forward to reading it. And
Oh, Hashem,
I
that's what Hashem.
appreciate it. I appreciate it because now I'm excited to go and learn even more.
Oh, Hashem.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? Okay, I see that people, okay, so I see in the chat. First question, do you do classes on Tehillim weekly? Yes, and they are on my YouTube channel. If you go to Chaya Rivka Zwolinski on YouTube, I'll type in my name so that you can just know the spelling, because it's really a pain to spell it. There you go. And my maiden name was worse. Okay. And yes, there is a WhatsApp group. I think we're in our 7th year now. I'm not sure. And we do mini lessons, usually 5 days a week, audio mini lessons that you can listen to, and we have other classes and workshops. So you can contact me. Let me actually turn off the, actually, you know what? I'll just put it in the chat. If you contact me at this number, I'll add you to the WhatsApp group. I don't think this will show on YouTube. I don't think it shows. And then there's another question. With internalization of Tehillim in mind, Naomi Mass, how would one apply the message of Pasuk 8 in terms of internal foes, as in working through trauma or negative influences? So that's a really good question. Okay, so 8 is, with a free will offering, I will sacrifice to you. I will thank your name, Hashem, for it is good. Is that the one you mean?
I'm sorry, I actually was referring to Pasuk 9.
9,
Yeah, right.
the last one.
Oh my God.
Okay, so from every distress he has rescued me, and on my enemies my eyes has seen. So I think that we would say that we all have Yetzer Hara with different aspects, and rises up at different times. And when we have achieved the destruction of a particular Yetzer Hara, okay, I mean, it might be for, I don't know, whatever your desire is. Hi, Naomi, it's good to see you. I would say that is something, and we witness, it's gone. Okay, I no longer really have an anger management problem. I no longer speak lashon hara. I no longer whatever. Those are enemies. Those are internal. And I no longer get depressed. I've worked through it. And even if I feel sad sometimes, I don't sink into atzvos, whatever the enemy is. If we know that we've won it, we've conquered it. We've conquered it. Does that answer?
That particular quality you described at the end of how one would merit to see the I think you said the destruction or the downfall of the foe, the enemy.
Yes.
Because they
deserve it.
They deserved it.
Deserving. We're deserving. We have to, on the one hand, what we're all taught. Okay, excuse me, I have a new message here. I just want to move the thing down so I can see it. Okay, we all know what we're taught, which is we should walk around with two pockets. In one pocket it says the entire world was created for me. Okay, the Rebbe of Peshishcha, Simcha Bonam Peshishcha says this, and on the other pocket it says, we pull out a message and it says, I'm dust, I'm nothing. So we have to have that balance. And, it's not an either or, because God willing, I'll be teaching another holy self-esteem workshop, hopefully in the near future after Pesach. And we'll learn how to really blend humility with self-esteem. And self-esteem is understanding that I'm nothing before Hashem, yet I have a holy neshama, and my holy neshama, when I'm aligned with Hashem, has a righteousness that is deserving. It's not entitlement, and it's not I want, so therefore I deserve. That's different. So this is something that we all have to work at. It's a function of psychospiritual maturity. It's a function of really living with the Torah as our guide. I hope that answers the question.
It does seem that while we have the holy neshama, that we're all given things that we have to work through.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
Right.
We all have it.
then, it is something that we have to work at and deserve the Yeshua,
That to deserve to see the Yeshua.
to deserve to see it.
Right. When we deserve, excuse me, you're right. When we deserve the Yeshua, then we get to see it. I'm sorry. I conflated the two. Yeah. So, we have to be gentle with ourselves. We do. I find that most people are too harsh on themselves. And there are some people, okay, there are some total narcissists out there, I'm not going to lie. But in general, we really have to look for the good, which is why a Zamra, Torah 282, L'Kutei Moharan, is a lesson that Rebbe Nachman and Reb Noson and every single Breslov since says, you go with this lesson. You learn this lesson. Many carry it around in their pockets. I try to learn it. Yeah, it's so funny. I don't really need to learn it because I'm always learning it with bechavrusa with someone. So it's like I try to learn it several times a year, and Hashem arranges it so that I get to teach it to someone. So we end up exploring it so closely that I have, that it's like a miracle. Because if you look for the good in yourself and you look for the good in others, you have to have both. You achieve this closeness with Hashem because he's the one who created that good inside you, and he loves you and he wants to give to you. And for this generation, this is a generation that's had issues of family of origin that I don't think any other generation has had. It's just incredible, and these issues can't be solved, in my opinion, without learning a Zamra. I think a Zamra puts the lid on it, meaning learning it thoroughly and davening about it and living it. And that's what I mean by learning it. All right. I think, are there any more questions before we shift over to saying Tillim? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Naomi. Great questions. Very good. I think that they're questions everyone has and everyone should think about. So thank you. I'm going to stop the recording here.